Today we are going through some real life study strategies that will help you study smarter and not harder. My name is Tinu and I have 4 university degrees, including a PhD in biomedical science. These strategies are pretty much how I survived the education system from start to finish, and it will be applicable to you no matter where you are in life, whether you are studying or learning a trade or a skill or anything like that. So let's get into it. First, why this video? Well, for starters, I wish that I had this particular video on more practical strategies than what we have out there today. Look, strategies like the Pomodoro technique, reading and rereading, memorization cards, highlighting, using flashcards to remember things, and all of these kinds of techniques, they are great. They are great, but there's quite some friction in getting started with them. First, you need to know and understand the technique and remember to use it, right? And then you have to know how to also implement it in your life and make sure that you customize it into your everyday to day life. So even though these techniques are great and there's tons of research backing them up and showing exactly how and why they are effective, and it's good to use and to implement in your own life, they are lacking in very many ways, especially when it comes to becoming a well-rounded student. Second, this video has 5 short and sweet techniques, and they apply to every level of education, whether you are in junior year of high school or you are just getting started with your master's degree program. Wherever you are, you can take all of this and apply it to your life right now. Think of this video as your how to learn guide. Learning is a skill. We can all hone it. So today we are getting smarter at the other half of learning. Not the reading, the writing, the listening, the critical thinking part, but the skills to actually pass your exams once and for all and get through your studies so that you just have time for your life, you have time for your social life, you have time for your part-time job, and you are just overall enjoying your life as a student. So here we go. Number 1, befriending students who are a year ahead of you can provide invaluable resources like advice on lecturers, advice on courses, past exam questions, textbooks, notebooks, all sorts of things. Advice on what subjects to focus on, what question is guaranteed to come out in the test questions, which lab tech, for example, you need to learn from, what topics to pay attention to and really focus on, what to prioritize, what shouldn't be prioritized, what you need to memorize, how to memorize it, and so on and so forth. These kinds of relationships can offer, honestly, excellent academic benefits, and you can't put a price on something like this. It's like having your own second year tour guide, for example, someone who will give you practical advice on what matters and how to get ahead, which can save you a ton of money and a ton of time. Money spent, on study materials and time wasted not even knowing A from B. When forming these kinds of relationships, or these kinds of networks, I should say, remember that these people ideally, need to be 1 year ahead of you. Why? They remember what it feels like to be where you are today. People who are 2, 3, 4 years ahead of you, they've completely forgotten what it feels like to be like you. They don't even remember what your problems are because they now have different problems today. They have a different mindset. They may not remember the details that you are going through right now. So, your best bet is to learn from someone who is 1 year ahead of you. Those are the people that you want to form these kinds of networks with. In some high institutions, I know that students 1 year ahead run tutorials for students or their contemporaries 1 year, one level below. These are the places that you want to be in, to be honest. If it doesn't exist at your institution, consider putting this idea forward to your HOD or whoever else is in charge, and get the ball rolling. And remember that when you are now a year ahead of other people, try to do the same for them. Number 2, See, where you live doesn't really matter as much, even though it would be great to live as close to where you study as possible so you save money that way. But it really doesn't matter. And what your part-time job is, doesn't really matter either, especially while you're studying. It is important for the job to pay the bills, and that's it. As a matter of fact, what you study may not be as important as we think that it is right now. You may not work or build a career with your degree, and that is fine. However, who you spend the most time with is who or what you become. It may sound fun to be around someone who skips classes, for example, someone who skips lab sessions and tutorials. But when it comes to building habits that will last you a lifetime, or building habits that determine your success right now in the immediate present at your studies, this may just not be the best idea. So make friends with people who are achieving what you want to achieve, or who at least have the same kind of goal as you. And if that's not possible, consider starting a study group so that you can study with some other people. So ask a few people around, ask them, would you like to study together? And see if anyone would like to study together, or do, assignments together at least, or do lab projects together. You can have quiet sessions, quiet study sessions together, or you can have scenarios where each person takes turns to discuss and explain a topic to the whole group, a very small group. You will all learn much faster, you will all learn from each other this way. Why? Because you all want the same thing, you have the same goal, you want to understand the material and you want to pass your exams. There's no better motivation than these people, right? So build relationships with people who have the same goals as you. Number 3, I got this third technique from my mom. She was a teacher for many decades. As soon as she began her teaching career, she started to compile and collect past questions for her children, for her future children. But my mom collected everything she could, not even knowing what we were going to major in, not knowing if her babies were going to even make it through to high school or what we were going to study at university. She collected questions that we really benefited from. Now, you may obviously not have the luxury of decades worth of past questions, but here's what you can do. In addition to collecting past questions from people a year ahead of you, as we discussed earlier, at the end of every lesson, at the end of every course, or at the end of every lecture, write down test questions in a book. Have a notebook separate for quizzes, for test questions. And as you are listening, as you are participating in a class or a lab session or whatever it is in an experiment, begin to think like a lecturer, begin to think like a teacher, and begin to collect quiz questions from the lesson. Anything the teacher stressed, anything the lecturer stressed. If you studied, say, photosynthesis today, at the end of the day, come up with 10 photosynthesis questions. And now we even have AI. We have things like ChatGPT and other free AI to help us. So, on days that we are struggling, ask an AI to come up with 12, a dozen objective quizzes for second year philosophy or whatever it is that you have just studied. Ask it to provide you with the options, option A, B, C, D, blah, blah. And you can even go beyond that and ask it to provide you with maybe 6 essay questions. What is my point? Have a bank, have a Q&A bank. It will change your life, I promise you that. Practice these questions every single day. Think about questions as you are learning. Write them down, practice them. And definitely spend, the days leading up to your test or your exam practicing these questions. Answer the questions as if it was a real thing. Using AI is helpful, but it really doesn't replace speaking with someone who is a year ahead of you. Why? That person is literally you last year, and AI isn't. But look, AI will help greatly. We can make good use of that. So before any test or exam, quiz yourself and practice these mock questions during the semester, towards the end of the semester, and especially before your exams. You will be shocked, I promise you that, how well you will do in your actual exam. Number 4, eat the frog. You may have heard this phrase before, but today we are going to focus on the second half of this quote. Now, this is a quote by Mark Twain, and this is how it goes. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So we're taking the second half of this quote. And what this essentially means is that you want to focus on the harder thing first. We don't want to waste our time repeating or learning or relearning or revising a topic or a subject that we are already familiar with, something that we already know. That would be a waste of time. Instead, we want to spend all of our time on the more difficult sums, the more difficult topics. So, what topic or what courses are you the least confident in? That is what you want to spend all of your time, or the majority of your time, learning and revising and learning and revising. We may not like them much, these topics. We don't know well enough, or we may find them daunting, but these are our weak points, and we need to spend the most time focusing on these areas so that we can get better at those areas. Number 5, spend your money on good food, sleep well, and call your parents. How are these strategies going to help you excel at university, you ask? Well, you really don't want to be the reason that you fall ill. You want to look after yourself. You want to study hard, yes, you're going to work hard if you have a part-time job or a full-time job, but you want to drink your water and you want to eat well. Go out and have fun, enjoy your evening, take the time off, actually schedule your downtime, time that you are not studying, you're not reading, you're not researching. Schedule that into your timetable, but remember to wear your sunscreen. Keep busy, yes, so that you're not wasting time, you're not wasting money, but also make the time to call your parents or text your family and your friends. Why do I say all of this? A lady that I studied with, smart, intelligent, brilliant lady, she spent all of her waking hours doing nothing other than studying, other than reading and memorizing and cramming and just trying to pass her exams. One semester, she got so burnt out, it was just so bad, she fainted and she couldn't take an exam. She landed in a clinic for several days. She was severely exhausted, severely. She had to retake the exam, I think the following semester or during the summer break, right? Paid the extra fees, had to give up her summer holiday, repeated the class, took the whole class from scratch, and spent all her summer at the university. It wasn't great at all. It wasn't. We don't want to just struggle through our studies and just, it is all or nothing approach. No, we want to enjoy the journey. We really want to enjoy the journey. So those are my top 5 strategies for studying smarter and not harder. If you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy this one here where we go over part-time positions for students. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.